First thing you need to understand about auditing is I'm not an IRS tax agent, so I'm not going to take your tax returns and make y'all scared. It's a constitutional office, so the state constitution tells us what we need to do. Basically, we set values in my office, and we levy or we create the millage rate that helps us collect taxes and be able to pay the bills for our community. Last year was what we call a reassessment year, and by state law, every 5 years, the county assessor, who's Bob McLean, has to get his appraisers out and figure out what everybody's personal real estate property is worth. That's his job function. Then he gives that number to me, and then I figure out what we have to go ahead and create a levy for to be able to pay what the county council budget is and make that happen. But that basically tells us what the value of the property in Anderson County is worth. It tells the state what the value of the state is worth, and that helps them be able to raise funds for loans and things like that, because that's the collateral, if you will. So there's 2 elected officials in that building. One is our treasurer, Jason Phillips, and the other is me. The assessor is hired by the county administrator, Rusty Burns, and so Bob's office is right there as well too. The nice thing about it, and we call it a convenience center, is you can come in and conduct a great deal of business when it comes to property all in one place. The other function that we have to make sure we do when I'm setting tax levies in August is that Anderson County as a government entity doesn't collect more than it needs, and it certainly can't collect less than it needs. So we call that revenue neutral. It's a balanced budget in the very purest form. Your state and your local governments are required by law to make sure that we're balanced. School boards as well. So I look at school board budgets, I look at municipality budgets when they come to me. I don't necessarily create those budgets, but I do want to make sure that they've got the right millage rate calculated. So what is a millage rate? Real simply, the tax bills can look complicated. The state legislature several years back said it's not clear enough. We need you guys to be able to spell out exactly where people's money is going to. So we're not just have a number on there that says pay this, and then you're like, well, what am I paying for? When you get a piece of property, whether it's a car or a home, the county assessor will send an agent out. Sometimes they do a mass appraisal and they'll look at aerial photographs and like, oh, did they add a swimming pool? Or, oh, that wasn't there 5 years ago. And sometimes they actually go into the field and go out and say, yep, that house is still there. That house is still there. Now there's 2 houses here. But he'll assess a value to that, and that's called a market value. The taxable value of that's usually less. So they'll give you a market value, what they feel like you could sell it for, and then he'll give you a value that we feel like we want to tax it at that's more of an average, not the top end, but an average. We've got a taxable value that'll show up on your bill, and that's, let's just say for the sake of numbers, $100,000. Of that taxable value, okay, we have different tax rates. So the state tells us what we have to charge, an assessment ratio for different properties. For your home, there's 2 rates. There's the 6% and a 4% defined by the state of South Carolina. 4% is the rate of this number that we're going to levy the tax on. And that's for an owner-occupied home, primary residence we'll call it, or your legal residence. You'll hear those 3 different terms. 6% is what we're going to call investment property or rental property. So if I own a second home on the lake, and I don't, that would be assessed at 6%. Or if I have a property downtown I'm renting out to somebody and I'm making an income off that, that's also at 6%. When you first buy a home, and we've changed ownership, anytime we change an ownership status or the deed, I'm putting my son on it now, something's changed with the deed on that property, it automatically goes back to 6%. We work for you. Bottom line is you're our customer, and we're all committed to serving you and the people of Anderson County the best of our ability. Now, as primary owner-occupied residents, you get some property tax relief immediately. So we have to go ahead and show you that we have a school tax, we have county taxes, we have solid waste fee. There's a lot of things on that bill. But as a 4% property owner, you get state property tax relief that takes your school tax portion of your bill completely off. There is a benefit to owning a home. You don't get that on the 6% properties, but you do get that on your 4% properties. And that'll be subtracted off at the bottom and it reduces your bill. If you've got a neighbor who's got a question about, I don't understand why my tax bill's so high, send them down to our office. That's what we can figure out for you. Because in 2006, the state legislature decided we're going to go ahead and raise the sales tax 1% and lower property tax for schools. It was Act 388. It's a game changer for property owners because it lowered your tax bill here. It shifted the burden for school operating taxes to the 1 cent sales tax. Once you turn 65, we've got another program called homestead exemption, and that will go ahead and take $50,000 of value of your house, okay, and we'll take another 4% off of $50,000, which is $2,000, and we'll go ahead and apply that towards the remaining part of your bill as a further deduction on what's left over, the county operating budget part of that. Your municipal tax bill will go down as well too. So that'll take off some more. Won't take it off completely, but it will significantly reduce that. And that could be several $100s on any given bill. One of the reasons I wanted to get out into the community was specifically be able to address that and say there's more out there that a lot of people just don't know about that we want to be able to help you all with. You have to be 65 for a calendar year. So January to December. For our service-connected veterans that have 100% service-connected disability, they get pretty much a full exemption for their property tax on their home and 2 vehicles. If you've got a Lexus, for instance, or you get a Toyota, those values are going to be different. If it's a used car, we depreciate that 5% every year down to, after 15 years, it's at our lowest assessment. And the tax bill for that is usually around $16 a year. So if you got a 2015 car, that tells you that if you've got that on your odometer, then we'll give you another discount for a high mileage car. We don't give you one for a low mileage.
You're building houses beside each other. At one time I was told that the lot beside us could not build a house because it wasn't enough
square footage?
There you go.
Yeah,
so
the lot size.
The rule changed because there's one. And is that going to make the taxes go up any higher? Because this new house has been beside this almost.
Possibly. Possibly it could.
My old house, I'm going to pay more taxes because this new house has been being built beside me.
Only because it may be valued higher.
My house now?
Maybe.
I'm affected by that. There are houses. 3 houses have been built beside, we've not been out there over 50 years. Now they're building houses out there. And they're going at over $300,000. And mine is not near that, but
right.
I understand the value in our houses to go up also, right? And therefore we'd be paying more taxes. Is that why?
That's exactly right, but that may not be what's happening. Your value may not go up, it may not.
It might not go up.
No, and if it does, you've got an appeals process. You can ask the assessor to come out and say, I don't think my house is worth this much. Fill out an appeal form. The working theory is when you develop something, you're improving everything around it. And I get a lot of questions about that. It's valid. And sometimes those are market forces that are really outside of our control. But I haven't done anything to my house, or I've absolutely done nothing to my house. Why is it valued higher than it was 5 years ago? It's got a lot to do with what's going on around you. I'm not saying yours has gone up. I don't know that, and I can look it up though. But I would pay attention to that, and if you have a question about it, the assessor's office is the place that you need to go to and say, can you explain this to me, why my value changed? I don't have any kids in school, my kids are out of school, why am I still paying school taxes? Okay, let's back up to this. You're not. We're having to levy that, we put it on your bill and calculate it, but then we take it off. In point of fact, Most people aren't paying school operating tax. Well, then who is? I am.
But it shows up on your bill.
It shows up on your bill. It shows up on the bill. We have to show you that what it would be. Then we take the discount and take it off and reduce it. So it's on, it's subtracted off, so you're not paying that. There is one thing that's on everybody's bill called school bond debt. That's the only thing we do all have to pay. It's a smaller amount on each bill, but it's part of the school, it's not the operating portion of it. So that, the operating portion is the largest portion, 75% of what your bill would be if you were a 6% owner. So we have to show you what the worst case scenario would be, then we start taking off the deductions, and then you're left with the remainder. It's business owners, manufacturers are at 6%, 10.5% for businesses. So your business population and people who have investment properties are paying the lion's share of your school operating budget. When I hear somebody say, I'm really mad at the school board, I'm paying all this in school taxes. No, you're not. Or you didn't this year. So how does the schools get their money? Okay. Again, that 1 cent sales tax that we all pay, we remember it was at 5%, and then they changed it to 6%, and then they went ahead and exempted food. You don't pay sales tax on food at the grocery store anymore. But the other 1% you're paying for everything else gets into the state and comes from the state back to the schools in a distributed fashion.
Could you explain to the group why, if you're in the city, in a restaurant, you're paying that extra taxes?
Yes, 2% hospitality tax. If a city wants to go ahead and have a hospitality tax, they can charge it. It's by law no more than 2%, and it's supposed to be used for recreation, tourism, those type of activities and functions. I've been in the city for 26 years. So when I first opened my business in 96, in 97, 98, we added a hospitality tax in the city limits. And that was used primarily right off the bat to build the new recreation center. They tore down the old one. The old Coleman Recreation Center went away, and we built the new one there. And those monies went and paid the capital, build that. Those are the type of things you'll see that tax used for. Homestead exemption is something that we can help you. If you don't have it right now and you're over 65, we'd like you to come down and see us and apply for that. And that would be on your next year's tax bills. So when we take those applications for homestead exemption or for VA benefits, we send that to the Department of Revenue in Columbia. They certify it and send it back to us, and then we can go ahead and apply that.
What if the home was just in my name, but my husband's disabled? Could I still get that, or is
You
it?
would not, but I would suggest talking to an
Put
attorney.
it on
Sometimes
there.
those fees can be small. If you know someone, those fees could help, because it would definitely benefit both of you in the long
Right.
term.
And that would be a deed change.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can
So,
do
and then again, remember, you change that deed,
that. I can do that,
you
yeah.
change that deed, come see Bob. He's a nice guy. He's got a great staff there. Come see Bob, we'll get you the right bill. Anderson County's website is andersoncountysc.org. And right at the very top in the corner, there's a pay online button. So if you don't want to come in and you got your bill, whether it's a car bill or a home bill, you can pay that online. But you can see here on AC Pass, now I can look at property. All of this is public information. It's meant for us to be transparent and accessible for you guys. You can see what your tax bill is for this year. You can see what it was for last year. All that's right there, taxes. And there's some other things here with courts, permits, and forms. You can find directories for any of the county departments, including mine, and contact information there as well. It's a great resource. You can fill out the homestead exemption form online as well, too. Of course, we still have to send that off to the state. But there's a lot of ways you can get processes started online and not have to come into the office. Recreational vehicles, if you know somebody with a camper or a home that rides, those are at 6%, it's a little higher. I can tell you that if you've made any improvement or change to your property by adding a garage or a carport, if you build something solid, you should pay extra tax on that, yeah. And usually when you take out a building permit to build something, or you hire a contractor and they take out a permit, that usually is when we can find that building permit's closed out. They send a copy of that to the assessor's office. They go out and verify it. So that's as much of a check and balance as you get without somebody getting in your business all the time.
If you own an RV and you use that as a second home, I know you said.
Yeah, that'll be the 6%
It's
value.
at 6%.
Yeah, ma'am.
Used to, you could go down there and reduce it, but y'all just put it to the 6%. Now, it was 10%, right?
It was 10.5%.
Yeah, 10.5,
Yeah.
and then you put it just straight 6%.
Straight 6% is what we did across the board.
Okay.
Because most people were using those as second homes or considering, if you can, the benchmark is, if I can get a loan on that
Yeah,
and I get, and I can deduct the interest, it goes back to the, how does the IRS treat that?
right.
If you can get the deduction for the
Yeah,
interest on that,
Yeah.
then we can go ahead and consider that a second home. Ordinarily, if we don't have a bill of sale for an automobile, or I don't have a title or something, if I don't have the paperwork that the DMV requires, then I have to find a value and assign that myself. Usually we'll go with MSRP in a source that the state provides us, and that's going to be higher. But if somebody can produce something that says, I didn't pay that, fair market value is kind of what we base that off of. And if the market is down here, but the MSRP is on here, we like to shoot right kind of in between or down to that. And if you've got the proof, that helps us out a lot.
Yeah, that's what
I can't take your word for it, and I can't take
Yeah.
I can't take a piece of notebook paper with scribble. I bought this from Bob next door. So remember, with the cars, you're paying 6% flat across the board. The bigger the vehicle is, the higher that might be, for two reasons. If that vehicle is being used in a business and it's titled to the business, that's going to be at 10.5%. Because it's a business use. But I'm not using it in my business. I title it, I drive my truck, I do business in my truck, but it's titled to me, then it's at 6%. Unless you went and bought a Ram 3500 with a heavy duty package, and that vehicle weight gets over 11,000 pounds, then it automatically goes to 10.5%, and that's by the state. So you've got then 120 days really from the date of purchase to be able to pay that tax bill. The state of South Carolina determined that the heavier the vehicle weight is, the more it works our asphalt, and the more you ought to pay for
Driving the streets.
driving the streets. For properties that the assessor classifies as ag use, maybe it's always been a farmland, it's been in my family for years, it's always at 4%. But the way they value that property is extremely low. So they go to a very low value per acre for agricultural land, and they only tax it at 4% until you do something to that property. If you have friends that live in Pelzer, Pendleton, Powdersville, all the P-towns, we have a convenience office up in the Powdersville Library. It's got one of my people up there 5 days a week, and it's got a treasurer's agent up there as well too to take collections. They can't do refunds up there, and they can't do homestead exemptions up there, but we can produce car bills for them so they don't have to drive 40 minutes into Anderson. It's the only satellite office we have in the county for those type of things, and it's in the library. When you walk right in, it's right there to the left. When the value of your property goes up, you're going to get more for it when you sell it. Yeah, but I don't want to sell it. Nevertheless, the value of your property is higher. Or you built a new house, and the cost of building is substantially higher now than it was 5 years ago because building materials are higher. So that new house is costing you probably 40% more than it did 5 years ago to build it. So when they close out that contract and they move into that new house, they're getting, it could be exactly the same kind of house that I have, but my house is 120 years old. But my house is worth less. His is exactly the same house as brand new. He goes and closes out that construction permit and gets a tax bill for a $500,000 house. Right? Mine's could be identical to it in the other part of the county, and it's half that. So your taxes bill's not going to go up next year. 5 years from now, we're going to look at everybody's property, and they may value it differently then. But between now and then, nothing should change with your tax bill unless I change the millage. When the assessor has to reevaluate all the property, statewide, regardless of what county you're in, even though that property value might go up to $250,000, okay, of taxable value, the assessed value can only go up by 15%. It can only go up by law. We cap it at 15%. So you know that your house is worth more, but I can only go up 15% every 5 years. Let's take a $100,000 house. It's worth now, because of everything that's going on around you, $200,000. But your taxable value will only go up to $115,000. And you'll see that on the paper, capped. And so, yeah, your tax bill might go up, but not that much as that $350,000 house is right next door to you. The more people move into an area like West Pelzer, the more building that goes on there, the more demand for services there are going to be. There's more kids going to the school, potentially. There's more people on the sidewalks. There's more cars, more pollution. But at some point, okay, we're going to need to provide more to support more people that's not fee-based, for instance, infrastructure-wise. Our city's growing, our county's growing. We're going to do our part to keep things balanced for you, fair, unbiased, and as low as we possibly can. We do a good job of managing the resources that we have available, and we got good people in government that are good, getting better about planning, because now they're seeing different challenges come up that we didn't see 10 years ago. We want to be responsible stewards of your money. And we care about the people that we take care of too. And I want to make it clear that I work for you, whether you voted for me or not. So in our office, I think one of the things that I really appreciate about the work that we do, it's a billing office. There's no politics there.
Really?
It doesn't matter whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat, or whether you are or you're not. You come in, you're a taxpayer, I work for you. And we're all the same in that regard. How can this possibly be political at this level? I don't set the law, but I execute it, and I work it.